This week on Irish Bandit Revolution, if there's something strange in the neighborhood, who you gonna call? This week we are looking back at all three Ghostbusters movies, the original 1984 classic, its 1989 sequel, and the remake from 2016. Which one did I prefer? Well, we'll get into that later, but full disclosure, I haven't seen the remake yet. Anyway, Irish Bandit Revolution begins now. Welcome back to another edition of Irish Bandit Revolution. I hope everyone is having a great week. I, as always, am your host, the one, the only, the second Irish Bandit. This week on the show, we're going to be looking back at one of my all-time favorite movie series. I'm looking back at the Ghostbusters franchise. We're going to be talking about all three movies in the franchise, the original 1984 classic, its 1989 sequel, and the remake from 2016. Now, full disclosure, I said in last week's episode that I was going to watch the remake. I still have not watched the remake yet, but since I'm only doing a retrospective, I'm not giving my opinions. I'm talking about the movies, any, controversies caused by it, undue controversy in the case of the remake, honestly, but we'll get to that when we talk about that. I guess I really don't have to watch the movie. It'd be nice to know what goes on in the movie, but I'm going to watch it eventually, as long as it's on Netflix. I will eventually get around to watching it. So let's not waste any more time, and let's just dive right into it and talk about the original classic 1984 Ghostbusters movie. Now, again, I absolutely love this movie. This is one of my all-time favorite movies. We're going to get a little bit more about that in a second here. But I remember watching this movie as a kid. It's one of those things where I watched it as a kid, didn't get all of the jokes. Watch as an adult, it's funnier because now I get all the jokes, being a 39-year-old. So let's just get right into it, and let's talk about one of the best movies I've ever seen and one of the best movies ever made, Ghostbusters. So if you're a fan of the movie of Ghostbusters like I am, you already know what the plot of the movie is, but let's just humor me for a minute, and I'll recount you with a tale of the Ghostbusters. I don't know where that came from. Anyway, Doctors Peter Venkman, Raymond Stantz, and Egon Spengler are scientists investigating the paranormal at Columbia University. After they lose their jobs following a botched ghost investigation in the university library, they establish Ghostbusters, a paranormal investigation and elimination service. They opened their business in a disused firehouse and developed high-tech equipment to capture ghosts. On their first call at a hotel, Egon warns the group never to cross the energy streams of their proton-pack weapons, as this could cause a catastrophic explosion. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later on, but they captured their first ghost, Slimer, and deposited it in a special containment unit in the firehouse. As paranormal activity increases in New York City, they hire a fourth member, Winston Zedmore, to cope with demand. The Ghostbusters are retained by a cellist, Dana Barrett, whose apartment is haunted by a demonic spirit, Zool, a demigod worshipped as a servant to Gozer the Gozerian, a shape-shifting god of destruction. Venkman competes with Dana's neighbor accountant, Louis Tully, for her affections. As the Ghostbusters investigate, Dana is possessed by Zool the Gatekeeper, while Louis Tully is possessed by her counterpart, Vince Clortho the Keymaster. I am Vince Clortho. Are you the Gatekeeper? I kind of sound more like Peter Venkman as Louis Tully as opposed to Rick Moranis, but both demons speak of the coming of Gozer, the Destructor, and the release of the imprisoned ghosts. The Ghostbusters take steps to keep the two apart. Oh, Walter Peck. Oh, my God. Some of the best lines in this movie come from him, or come about him, I should say. Walter Peck, an Environmental Protection Agency lawyer, has the Ghostbusters arrested for operating as unlicensed waste handlers. There we go. My old eyes. He orders their ghost containment system deactivated, causing an explosion that releases all the ghosts and Louis Vins. The ghosts wreak havoc throughout the city. Consulting blueprints of Dana's apartment building, the Ghostbusters learn learned that Mad Doctor and cult leader Ivo Shandor, declaring humanity too sick to exist after World War I, he's kind of right, designed the building as a gateway to summon Gozer and bring about the end of the world. That's where I'm going to leave it, because, if you've seen the movie, you know what happens. If you haven't, you should see the movie. If you have, how have you not seen Ghostbusters by now? Go watch it. Anyway, like I said, I absolutely love this movie. This is this is like one of my top 10 all-time favorite movies, like ever. Let's talk about. Let's see if I can find it here. Casting, no. Filming, no. Because there was a bit of controversy surrounding the movie. Oh, let's talk about critical response first. Ghostbusters received positive reviews from both critics and audiences, and is considered by many as one of the best films of 1984. I'm not going to dispute that, but there were a lot of good movies in 1984. You got to remember this. You had Nightmare on Elm Street, you had Gremlins. There were a lot of good movies that came out in 1984. The film has a score of 71 out of 100 on Metacritic, based on 8 critics, inciting generally favorable reviews. Late film critic Roger Ebert gave the film 3.5 stars out of 4 and wrote, "The movie is an exception to the general rule of big special effects can wreck a comedy. Rarely has a movie this expensive provided so many quotable lines." That's very true. It has a lot of quotable lines to it. Critical reception. Well, we know the critical reception. We're going to talk about the reboot. Oh, they're not going to talk about they're not going to talk about the controversy surrounding the name Ghostbusters, because Ghostbusters actually came from a children's live action show called The Ghostbusters, produced by Filmation companies and Lou Schreiber. They let Columbia Pictures use the name Ghostbusters they'd get a certain cut of the film, a certain cut of the percentage of the profits of the film, and they kind of got screwed out of that. So that was a big point of contention. Ghostbusters was produced and directed by Ivan Reitman, was written by Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis, and starred Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Sigourney Weaver, Harold Ramis, Rick Moranis, what was his name? William Atherton, and Ernie Hudson. I made Ernie Hudson. I'm always going to say that because I did. Music was provided by Elmer Bernstein. Cinematography by Laszlo Kovacs. Was distributed by Columbia Pictures. It was released on June 7th, 1984, Westwood, and had a wide theatrical release June 8th of 1984. So this came out like 20 days before my birthday that year. It had a budget of $30 million and had a box office gross of $295.2 million. To say that Ghostbusters was a success is an understatement. Ghostbusters spawned a successful Saturday morning cartoon called The Real Ghostbusters, a very lucrative toy line from Kenner, and because of all this, you had to know at the time that a sequel was on the horizon, but it would be 5 years before Ghostbusters 2 would see the light of day in 1989. After saving New York City from the demigod Gozer, the Ghostbusters, Egon, Ray, Peter, and Winston, are sued for property damage they caused and barred from investigating the supernatural, forcing them out of business. 5 years later, Ray owns an occult bookstore and works as an unpopular children's entertainer with Winston. Egon works in a laboratory conducting experiments into human emotion, and Peter hosts a pseudo-psychic television show. Peter's former girlfriend Dana Barrett has had a son, Oscar, with an ex-husband, and works at the Manhattan Museum of Art. After an incident in which Oscar's baby carriage is controlled by an unseen force and drawn into a busy intersection, Dana turns to the Ghostbusters for help. Excluding Peter, she doesn't want him anywhere near this. Meanwhile, Dana's colleague and boss, Dr. Janos Peho, oh god, Peter McNichol is great in this, I'm going to keep him down here, is indoctrinated by the spirit of Vigo the Carpathian, a powerful, legendary 16th century tyrant and magician trapped in a painting in the gallery. Vigo orders Dr. Poha, that's it, to locate a child that Vigo can possess, allowing him return to life in New Year. The Ghostbusters investigation leads them to illegally excavate First Avenue at the point where the baby carriage stopped. Lowered underneath, Ray discovers a river of pink slime filling the abandoned beach pneumatic transport line. Attacked by the slime after obtaining a sample, Ray accidentally causes a citywide blackout, and the Ghostbusters are arrested. They are found guilty of investigating the supernatural. Oh god, I love the judge in that scene. But before they can be taken away, the slime taken as evidence reacts to the judge's angry outburst and explodes, releasing two ghosts who were murderers that the judge had executed that proceeded to devastate the courtroom. The Ghostbusters imprison the ghosts in exchange for the restraining order being rescinded and that they be allowed to resume their ghost-busting business. Later, the slime invades Dana's apartment by way through her bathtub and attacks her and Oscar. She seeks refuge with Peter, and the two begin to renew their relationship. Investigating the slime and Vigo's history, the Ghostbusters discover that the slime reacts to emotions and suspect that it has been generated by negative attitudes of New Yorkers. While Peter and Dana have dinner together, Egon, Ray, and Winston explore the underground river of slime. While measuring the depth, Egon gets pulled into the flowing river. Winston gets pulled into the flowing river. I don't know why I read that as Egon. Ray and Egon jump in after him. After they escape back to the surface, Ray and Winston begin arguing, but Egon realizes they are being influenced by the slime, so they strip off their clothes. They also learn the river is flowing directly to the museum. I'm just going to stop right there because, again, this is one you have to watch. Now, there has been so much negativity directed towards this movie. And I don't know why. People say it's so inferior to the regular movie, to the first movie. Well, if you seriously sit down and think about it, it's pretty much the same movie. Like, if you look at Ghostbusters and you look at Ghostbusters 2, it's the same movie. Doesn't, has the same flow to it, has the same, same peaks to it and everything. They even get thrown in a psychiatric hospital. And in the first one, they get thrown in jail, they get thrown in a psychiatric hospital. The mayor bails them out. It's pretty much the same movie. But I think Ghostbusters 2 gets a bad rap for absolutely no reason. I absolutely enjoy Ghostbusters 2. It's not a great movie, like it's not as good as the first one, but I thoroughly enjoy it every time I watch it. It's a fun movie. Ghostbusters 2 was once again directed and produced by Ivan Reitman, and again written by Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd. And again starred Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Sigourney Weaver, Harold Ramis, Rick Moranis, Ernie Hudson, and Annie Potts, who returned as Janine. Also had Kurt Fuller, a character actor who's been in quite a few movies and TV shows. He was in this, he was in Wayne's World, he was in the Hulk Hogan vehicle, No Holds Barred. That's where I remember him most. This time the music was handled by Randy Elderman, and cinematography was by Michael Chapman. Again, distributed by Columbia Pictures. Had a release date of June 16th, 1989, so they always kept it as summer blockbusters. Had a budget of $37 million and pulled in $215.4 million at the box office. So it handily made back its budget. It didn't make as much as the first movie, but it was just as successful. But it gets mixed reviews. Let's have a quick look at some of the reviews. At its release, Ghostbusters 2 was the biggest 3-day opening weekend gross in history with $29.5 million. A record that was broke 1 week later by Batman. Well, we all know Batman was the biggest thing going that year. Ghostbusters eventually grossed $112.4 million in North America and $102.9 million internationally. The film received an approval rating of 53% on Rotten Tomatoes based on 38 reviews. Variety said the film had amusing visuals and a clever plot, which it did. That's why I liked it. On Siskel and Ebert, both Gene and Roger gave the picture 2 thumbs down. disappointed that the film did not try anything new, and like many sequels, merely retreated the first film. Siskel stated, "The film contains little comedic invention. If you have a formula, stick to it." I thought it was funny. It looks as if the filmmakers, particularly the writers, Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd, simply didn't try to do anything special, as if they simply filmed the first draft. He might be right there. Roger Ebert stated that he saw the movie in a theater in Michigan, and out of a packed house, there was only one laugh. Wow, that was bad. Murray remarked how disappointed he was with it all, as those special effects guys took over. It was too much of the slime and not enough of us. I think Murray has a point there, honestly. It did tend to get a little over heavy with the special effects, but again, I still love Ghostbusters 2. I thought it was great. It gets so much undeserved hate, and it's one you can definitely watch again. Maybe not as much as the first movie, but it's still enjoyable in its own right. From here, there would be talk of Ghostbusters 3 for so many years. Years would go on and we'd hear Ghostbusters 3, Ghostbusters 3, Ghostbusters 3. After Harold Ramis's death, it seemed all but certain that there would not be a third Ghostbusters movie. Not with this cast of Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, and Harold Ramis. So, which is why in 2016, instead of getting a remake, we got the reboot film of Ghostbusters with the all-female cast. I know I really don't talk much about most of the plot, but I'm going to try to talk as little about this as possible, seeing as I have not seen it yet. So we'll just get right into it. Psychiatrists Abby Yates and Aaron Gilbert are authors of a research book which posits the existence of paranormal phenomena such as ghosts. While Abby continues to study the paranormal at a technical college with eccentric engineer Jillian Holtz, Aaron, now a professor at Columbia University, disowned the work, fearing it might impact her tenure. When Abby republishes the book, Aaron convinces her to agree to remove the book from publication in exchange by helping Abby and Jillian in the paranormal investigation. They witness a malevolent ghost restoring Aaron's belief in the paranormal. But video footage of the investigation is posted online, and Aaron is fired by the university. She joins Abby and Jillian to set up new offices above a Chinese restaurant, calling themselves Conductors of Metaphysical Extermination. Ooh, that just rolls off the tongue. They build equipment to study and capture ghosts and hire the dim-witted but handsome Kevin Beekman as a receptionist, played by Thor. MTA staffer Patty Tolan witnesses a ghost in the subway line and contacts the group. They document the ghost and successfully test Jillian's proton containment laser. Proton pack. Get it right. But their findings are again dismissed. They continue to develop their technology and advertise their services with the name pundits have labeled them, Ghostbusters. Patty joins the team, providing historical knowledge of New York City and a repurposed Hearst Ecto-1. That was pretty much Ecto-1 in the first movie as well. Unbeknownst to the Ghostbusters, the ghosts are being summoned by devices built by Rowan North, an occultist attempting to bring about the apocalypse. When Rowan plants another device at a live music venue, the Ghostbusters are called in and capture the ghost in front of the audience. When supernatural debunker Dr. Martin Hess challenges the Ghostbusters, that sounds a lot like Walter Peck, the incensed Aaron releases the ghost as proof. It throws Hess out a window and escapes. Cool. The Ghostbusters are brought to Mayor Bradley and his secretary, Jennifer Lynch, who reveal that the city and the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, are aware of New York's ghost problem. Okay, this is sounding pretty dumb, honestly. While privately supporting the team's work, the mayor's office and the DHS publicly denounces them as fraudsters. Okay, that's as far as I'm going to go, because this is sounding rather dumb, honestly. Maybe I'm glad I'm not wasting my time with this movie. But I will say this, though. I don't have a problem with the fact that they're all females. Like, honestly and truthfully, I don't. if you have a problem with the fact that they're all females, then maybe you don't watch the movie. Like that's just my opinion. I think it's great that they're all females, honestly. The reboot was directed by Paul Feig and produced by Ivan Reitman and Amy Pascal. Written by Katie Dippold and Paul Feig and based on Ghostbusters by Ivan Reitman, Dan Aykroyd, and Harold Ramis. It starred Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, Leslie Jones, Charles Dance. Ooh, Charles Dance, like from Golden Child? Nice. Michael Kenneth Williams, and Chris Hemsworth. 4, like I said. It was distributed by Columbia Pictures. It was released on July 15th, 2016, so still a summertime blockbuster. It had a budget of $144 million and took in a box office gross of $229.1 million. So it still had a bigger budget, but it just barely made back it barely made it back at the box office. And I don't think I need to tell you what the response was to it. And then you had cameos including Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, Sigourney Weaver, Annie Potts, Ivan Reitman, Ozzy Osbourne was in it. Wow. Ozzy Osbourne, Al Roker, and Greg Kelly. So yeah, let's just quickly go into... I don't want to talk about music because I've heard the Ghostbusters song by Missy Elliott and Fall Out Boy, and it was terrible. Ghostbusters received criticism from social media users following word of Feig's involvement and the all-female cast, which some felt as a gimmick. Come on. On its first day of release, the first trailer for the film collected 12,000 likes and 13,800 dislikes from YouTube viewers, which, according to David Grainer of Ad Weekly, made it one of the most polarizing in recent memory. By May of 2016, the trailer had become one of the most disliked film trailers on YouTube, and the 9th most disliked YouTube video with 280,000 likes to over 1 million dislikes. Screen Crush described the reaction as a campaign to downvote the film into oblivion by a certain subset of people on the internet with an unhealthy fixation on hating on the Ghostbusters remake. In one interview, Melissa McCarthy felt it was a very, very, very tiny group of people who were misogynistic. Other reasons proposed for the negative reaction to the film trailer include a lack of interest in reboots, nostalgia for the original film, and perceived lack of humor in the trailer. I honestly didn't think the trailer was all that funny to begin with, but that was just me. Ghostbusters grossed $128 million in North America and $100 million in other territories for a worldwide total of $229.1 million. With a net production budget of $144 million. Due to the large amount spent on marketing, the studio stated that the film would need to gross at least $300 million to break even. Ooh, ouch. Before the release, Paul Feig stated a movie like this has to at least get $500 million worldwide, and that's probably low, and it didn't achieve that. The Hollywood Reporter estimates that the film's financial losses would be over $70 million. A representative of Sony found this loss estimate to be way off, stating, with multiple revenue streams, the bottom line, even before co-financing, is not even remotely close to that number. According to Variety, sources familiar with the film's franchising estimates the total loss to be about $75 million, of which, due to co-financing with Village Roadshow, Sony would lose about $50 million. Ouch. Rotten Tomatoes has an approval rating of 74% based on 350 reviews. That's not bad, actually, with an average rating of 6.5 out of 10. So it did, critically, it didn't do too badly, but people just had their nostalgia goggles on for this and they wanted a third movie. They didn't want a reboot. I don't know if it had to do with the fact that it was an all-female cast. I don't want to think that because that's pretty, reverse progress if you think about it. So I'm eventually going to watch the movie, and I'll tell you what I thought about it eventually when I do watch it. But reading from that, I don't know. I may be, I may actually be doing myself a favor by not watching it, but we'll see. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that. Let me know which one of the Ghostbusters movies was your favorite. Let me know in the comment section down below. I'd really appreciate that. Don't forget to share this video anywhere you can on all the normal social media outlet suspects. Over my shoulder right here, you're going to see a link to last week's episode where I'm looking back at the original 1988 RoboCop movie, right? I still have Ghostbusters on the brain, apparently. The original 1988 RoboCop. And I'm looking at the 2014 remake as well, comparing which one I like more. In the description down below, you're going to see a link to my Redbubble store where you can pick up all your Irish Bandit merchandise, including stickers, t-shirts, tank tops, racerbacks, leggings. What else do we have? Coffee mugs, travel mugs, cases for iPhones, Samsung Galaxy, and for iPad. You can get all your Irish Bandit merchandise there. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, and if you're already subscribed, tap that bell and you'll be notified whenever I go live with a new video, be it a published video or whenever I go live. Right now, I'll have one live video planned for the season finale, but we'll get there eventually. Alright, well, let's take a look to next week's episode where I am counting down my 5 all-time favorite episodes from the original series of Star Trek. There were so many good ones. Such a classic series. I'll get into all that next week. Until then, I'm the Bandit, and I'm out of here. Take care, guys.